Hello and welcome back. I know by the time this gets uploaded, it might not be as close to New Year's, but I want to wish you all a very happy New Year, as well as hoping that your holidays went pretty well. Went well for me. Hope it went well for you, Afterglow. Was it pretty good for you?
Oh, great. My mic's already fucking up. Anyway,
It
yeah, it was alright.
was all right.
Good start.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is probably the first video we're gonna acknowledge this, but we got hit with like a warning by YouTube because of a funny Twitter slash Tumblr link. That's never happened in any of the channels, whether if it was my own or ones that I've managed. So I apologize right now for that. Like that's the only reason why I haven't been uploading anything because the last thing I want is to get a funny strike because we're still under the all-seeing eye of YouTube. There's still a warning in place, on the channel. So I'm not sure if it's ever going to go away or if it's permanent, but as far as I can tell, as what the information that we got was that we posted a not safe for work link, which was very interesting because I've seen plenty of other channels that put up a Tumblr link or a Twitter link or whatever, and they're still up and fine. So I'm not sure it's if someone someone from the audience perhaps reported the link or if it was actually YouTube, but either way, pretty dumb, but it is what it is. From that here on out, we're going to be a lot more careful. So sorry if we edit out some of the more spicy bits. Um I will say this though, we'll probably have more of an initiative to create a PonyTube channel and we'll have the more spicy bits there. But as far as YouTube goes, like we have to be a lot more diet when it comes to this stuff. That's just how it is. It's been like that for other content creators and whatnot. And we're just here to have a good time. We're just here to just talk about this story as well as whatever else you find on this channel. So, you know, just putting that out there before we get on to the actual show itself. So, thank you all for your patience. Like I said, by the time this goes up, it might be like another, week or two from this recording because there is a backlog that's already ready to go. It's just I was waiting for that warning to go away, but it hasn't gone away just yet. So maybe it is permanent. Maybe that's just going to be there, you know, for them to be watching us a little bit more. But, anyways, on to the actual show itself. Um, Fallout Equestria chapters 8 and 9. Thank you for correcting me, Afterglow. It's been a little bit of a while since we sat down and talked about this. And oh man, as you said, very meh chapters, a little bit speeding up on some of the action parts, but overall, I don't think much in terms of the story and development of the characters is a priority when it comes to these two chapters, but I would like to give the mic to you since I've already been talking for a good like 5 fucking minutes. So go for it, Afterglow. Whatever you got to say about chapter 8, and then I'll bounce off of that.
I didn't even get to finish my intro.
I am sorry. Continue.
Well, first I want to say to any government agency listening, the Enclave does not reflect the opinions of those working at mayors and stuff. He's a rogue element. I don't even know who this guy is.
Okay.
Also, happy 2024, Year of the Watcher, as it were. I'm sure people that actually read the story will get that joke.
Perhaps.
But yeah, Chapter 8, Derailed. Yeah, what a creative title. Because, something happens that may or may not derail. So we start with a nightmare, because why not? Pip feeling bad about murdering ponies that wanted to murder her, par for the course at this point. And, of course, we got to deal with more Velvet. Unfortunately, she did not die slowly and painfully bleeding out from that gunshot wound. If only we were so lucky. And they're on the train with the slaves. And then the slavers. Wait, no, I think I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah. No. I mean, just to kind of piggyback on what you said, they have like that long form argument, I think, right? Like it kind of starts off like, Velvet complaining to little Pip, like, I didn't need saving and this and that. Like I wanted to help, ponies and this and that. But it's just like, well, the question that I would ask is like, why are you helping the worst of the worst then? You're helping slavers. You could have gone to like any other little town and been their like doctor. Because let's be honest here on the wasteland, like the two biggest professions is either something for fighting in war or medical. Like those are just the two biggest professions. You could have found a job anywhere else, and yet you pick to work for slavers. So that already right there, I hate it when Velvet complains about that, and I will continue to like carry that forward because it just seems like a very common thing. But continue on to the yes, the more arguments and stuff that occur on the train.
Yeah, imagine being a doctor in the wasteland. You could walk into any civilization, any cool town, and be like, "Hey, I can heal ponies that are dying," and they're like, "All right, cool, welcome to the team."
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, they're getting followed by someone
So
because Calamity notices somehow.
someone or something.
Oh, we find out what it is. It's just stupid, but yeah, Little Pip's still simping for Velvet.
Yeah.
No, she's so pretty, even when she's yelling at me.
I mean, at that point, like all my interest in you would disappear if you went ahead and helped the bad guys, especially the bad guys that like enslave like other people, individuals, or whatever. It's probably like one of the most like horrible, deplorable people you can ever work for. So yeah, the fact that like little Pip, I believe she felt bad about it because she's like, oh my god, I got in the way of like what Velvet wanted to do. It's like, no, she should have just stood up for herself and been like, listen here, like you're helping again the worst of the worst. Like as you said, go anywhere and you'll be accepted with open arms. But yeah, it leads off to what?
Yeah. What?
Sorry, I was gonna say it leads off to what then?
Ah, I mentioned when they're done sneezing, Velvet starts talking about her backstory. And the really then the weird shit comes up where she's the descendant of the first overmere of the stable they came from.
Mm-hmm.
It's implied who it is, but I don't know if we should specifically talk about it yet.
I mean, I think we can have an implication if it says it in the story at this moment in time. It should be perfectly fine.
I mean, it's kind of weird how like genetics make you a good singer. I don't think that's how it works. But
Probably,
especially genetics from like 200 years ago, like two generations or so.
yeah. I've heard that at least for humans, at least, certain things get lost after like the third generation, and then after like 5 to 6 generations, like other things, more and more gets lost. So 200 plus years. I mean, I guess that's what that's like at least 8 generations. If we're being very generous and having each generation live for, you know, 40, 60 years. I don't know how
I mean, they're in a stable,
yeah,
so
but
hyper long.
yeah, but like let's be honest, is something I always wondered and pondered about is like the humans at least, right? And I'm sure a lot of other living creatures, so I can probably put I'm under the assumption that ponies as well as like the other creatures that live in Equestria, they need sunlight to survive. Like I don't exactly know the science behind it, but I just know that's a general thing that like living beings, like it doesn't mean you're like it doesn't, you don't have to just be a plant, but like living beings need sunlight to survive. So
You're saying in stables, ponies are dropping dead of like scurvy all the time.
I mean, there's a possibility because maybe not necessarily scurvy or something like that, but you know, as somebody who was doing a lot of like dietary supplements, to lose weight, I will tell you that I felt awful just drinking shakes for about like a month straight because there's just some things that are in food that yes, you are getting like the vitamins in these shakes because I put the vitamins and stuff in there, but you're gonna feel like awful because there's just things in food that just you can't replace. And you can only imagine how these ponies feel after eating like synthetic food for 25, 30, 40 plus years of their lives. I don't know. That's a good thing that I've never really thought about even within the Fallout games, because it only seems like the overseer lives for a long time. Um, but I never really see like a bunch of old people. So like, what about the ponies? Like, I never even hear about like older ponies, you know? So I don't know. I'm just going out on the limb here, going like kind of like on the side, a little bit of a side discussion, you know? You get what I'm putting down?
Take all tangents. There's nothing to talk about in this chat.
Well, I mean, the Velvet does her own little like metaphors about like how her cutie mark, represents a bird, and she doesn't want to be in a cage, i.e. the stable and her little pit buck. Like that's another thing too. I get it as a symbol, like you don't want to put your quote unquote shackles back on, but we talked about it beforehand that the pit buck, or for Fallout, the pit boy is such an amazing tool to have. It not only categorizes all the items that you're carrying on you, but it also gives you status updates about your physical well-being, as well as if you're poisoned or if something else is wrong with you. It also tells you where locations are, and it tells you your radiation level, where enemies are, the possibility of where items are. There's like so many things that you can get out of this piece of technology that I don't care how like weird or mixed feelings you might have with it. It is still a very, very important tool, and I just don't like the fact how Valve just like tosses it away and just makes it seem like it's just a shackle. That to me, that's just another thing that like pisses me off about the character.
Everything pisses me off about the kid.
Yeah.
Are we gonna talk about who Velvet is descendant of?
Yeah, I mean, you can imply it, wasn't it? Isn't it not Sweetie Belle?
Yeah, which is funny that one of our main characters is already pretty much revealed to be the descendant of a very important pony.
Yeah, I mean, it is a fan fiction of back in the days where you had to always tie in the main six or other very important characters into a story for it to like work completely. You know, that's just what you had to
Even
do.
the even the CMC are pretty damn important to this story later on.
Yes, yes. And I wish there were other characters that were just as important, but you're mainly just gonna get like the fan favorites of the time that were important, and that's pretty much it. They'll have a little bit of implying with other memes and stuff from the show, which is like way later on. But a lot of songs will also come up, you know, as like afterthoughts, especially with Little Pip when she tries to come up with metaphors and stuff, or especially like the self monologuing she has within her mind. So you're gonna hear like a lot of those moments as well. Like the Pinkie Pie song. I forget exactly what the context was, but she's like, "You have to share, you have to care." Like it's just so dry when it's delivered that I'm just like, I really wish. Um, maybe it's cringe, right? But I don't know about you, but I think it would have been funny for Fallout Equestria Vanilla to have like a musical note. Just me. Maybe it's just me. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. Swibble being even being in charge of a stable is still weird.
Hmm.
For obvious reasons that we'll find out later on.
Yeah, I mean, let's just be honest here. It's one, they're just shoehorning characters, and then like two, it's also just like, nepotism. Like this person, or this pony, like it just basically that's all it is. It's just nepotism, which is, you know, the quote unquote reflection of a society as Fallout likes to do, even if it's a parody. They like to do those little comparisons within their games and lore. So I'm sure it's kind of the same thing with FOE. Like, oh yeah, nepotism gets you in spots that maybe you didn't deserve it, but because you knew this individual over here and that individual over there, like you're gonna get the spot. So that's kind of how I see it.
Oh yeah, and then slavers catch up to the moving train, and Little Pip was like, "How did they catch up to us?" That's a
Yeah.
very good question. I really wish the author bothered to answer it.
Yeah. I believe it was Calamity who takes note that there's shadows in the clouds, right? And I believe this is when we get introduced to griffins, right?
Good old Talon Company.
Yeah, good old Talon Company, which is like so weird because even in Fallout 3, I don't think Talon Company becomes a threat until you're like mid game because I mean theoretically you're not supposed to go to the capital until like you're at least above level 20 something, but hey, some people run in their guns blazing at like level 10 to get their asses kicked a couple times over before they, got to do some quests to build yourself up. But yeah, good old Talon Company.
Yeah, we don't really find out that much about the Griffins yet, so I don't know if we want to sneak about them yet.
Nah, it's just to me it's more of like mid to end game enemies or characters, if you want to say, make an appearance so early, just either for to shoehorn them in order to like fan some type of hype, which gets annoying because again we'll go back to the previous chapter with the introduction of the mutants, the super princess things, and
The goddess.
yeah, the goddess and all that stuff, and it's like, it's okay to like imply things maybe. I need a mythos, right? I'm going to just say that right out the bat. I need a mythos, especially for an enemy that's that strong that has a percentage of the princess's power. I need it to have a build up. Not just, oh, they're just like a one of the lieutenants of this group and they're just there. It's the same thing with griffins. Griffins are so rare in the show, at least early on in the show. We don't really get them until a lot later in the seasons. I would expect to not see a griffin for a while, you know? If anything,
I,
go ahead, sorry.
I'm still going with my theory that the author did not know how long this story was going to be, which is why it's always important, whether we're writing Fallout Equestria or anything, make an outline.
Exactly. You want to make an outline. I think if I were to rewrite this scene, because basically this chapter is about, them fighting on the train, and then it being derailed, hence the title of the chapter. I'll talk about it briefly about the fight scenes, the shootouts rather. Yeah, we're already past 15 minutes, so YouTube isn't going to be too super anal about what we're saying now. So there's a shootout that happens in the train, and it's interesting because Little Pip's conscience, for whatever reason, likes to peep out in the worst times. Um, I believe it is either I have to read this, but someone uses a laser weapon, and I believe it was either a slaver or one of like the innocent ponies gets hit and they get vaporized. And I I understand being in very stressful situations and you know freezing up a little bit, but when you're in a gunfight, I don't think the last thing you want to do is have your conscience come out and say hello. What are your thoughts about that? Because I know you love it when Blackjack is having, going through some stuff, and yet she always goes back to that famous freeway scene with the ghouls. How do you feel about this also being in vanilla, where Little Pip's conscience decides just to pop out in the worst timings?
Well, you see, the difference with that is that Blackjack usually does it during downtime, and they're not in the middle of a life or death gunfight
Mhm.
with like a bunch of slavers. And Little Pill just like, wow, it sure is crazy how these ponies are all dying around me.
Mhm.
Anyway, back to shooting. Like, it's only like 2 sentences. Like, I don't even know why you bother putting into this anymore. Like, I know you gotta show that your main character is still horrified by what they're seeing in the wasteland.
Yeah.
But, like, do something more with it. Or just don't do it at all, or do it when there's downtime.
Yeah.
Like, maybe after the gunfight, you can be like, wow, I saw some crazy shit during that.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm not like a what is it? Like a psychologist or something, but I want to say like there are I think 3 responses when it comes to like extremely stressful situations, and one is like freezing up completely. The other one is like freaking the hell out and, being a danger or a nuisance to everyone around you. And then like the third one is like, basically like locking it in and doing what you have to do. And little Pip is like a mixture of all 3 sometimes, which for a leader, because for whatever reason they decided to make her the leader, that's not something I would want to have leading me. So
Yeah,
that
main character syndrome though.
yeah, exactly, main character syndrome. And that's why, as we always do, when we talk about like rewriting stuff or, your own stories, don't do that to your main character, especially when it's like a story like this where the main character is basically a fish out of water type of story. I would suggest having the main character be a follower for a little while, to an individual that is, experienced with their surroundings. Don't make them a Mary Sue and just give them abilities and stuff like that. Or, again, in this situation, when she stops and has her conscience, like, that's just a prime spot for her just to get like blown to bits, you know? So you
I'll be totally okay if she had her conscious freeze moment. If when that happens, she gets like her ass shot by a shotgun.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, I shouldn't do that.
Yeah, yeah. Like it there should be like a consequence to it. I
But
like
I'll
that.
always have it conveniently when all the raiders are taking cover or whatever.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean that's pretty much it. There's that whole gunfight, and then like, they to relieve this issue, they for whatever reason they decide to escort all the other ponies, like the innocent ponies as well as those that were helping in New Appaloosa, to the caboose. While, the other part of the train goes forward, and um, while all this is going on as well, a lot of other, ponies, whether the innocent ones they just saved and those that are also helping, were killed. So of course those actions are gonna have consequences in the next chapter, where I'm just, telling you guys now. Um, and then the train flies off a cliff, and we think,
Actually, no, you're missing some stuff.
wait, what happened there?
Well, my favorite little clip moment happened so far, where she hands a gun to Velvet and she's like, "I don't want to shoot any pony." And then
Oh,
the little response is basically, "Shut up and deal with it." So finally, not simping and just telling her how it is. Finally,
yeah, yeah. I completely forgot about that part.
the
Yeah.
best moment from Little Clip so far in the whole story.
I mean, Velvet Remedy, can't hit shot though.
I mean, I can excuse that. It's literally her first time ever shooting a gun.
Yeah, she's just there to like be a distraction, or cause them to like think that, oh, there's a danger here with the, yeah. And I think little Pip does that, and to also go into detail, I know she has hoof to hoof combat with one of the slavers, and that also adds to like a lot of issues later on, as well as even in the moment. So there's that, and then again the part where they lead all the other innocents, because the train, right? The train, if it's moving at such a speed and no one was paying attention, they can't turn. So the plan is that they're gonna lead all the others to the caboose, and they're gonna fly out of the rest of the train to try and bait the slavers and thinking that they all fell out, which I don't understand the logic of that plan. But writing happens and they fly out. Um and then yeah.
Well, actually,
What?
we find out that well, Calamity, he's dealing with the Griffin, and he spades him into like he flies between the train cars without getting hit somehow himself. Then the Griffin gets smacked and fucking explodes, I guess.
Yeah, it turns into red mist.
And Calamity's next course of action is, oh, I should detach the caboose. And he goes up to meet up with the rest, like, okay, we need to hit the brakes. And everyone's like, where's the brakes? And Calamity's like, in the caboose.
In the
Hey, wait a minute.
yeah, it's one of those like bullshit Scooby Doo moments.
Who's driving the train?
Yeah, who's if you're here and I'm right there, and the brakes are there. Oh my god. Oh, it literally is a Scooby Doo moment, and I appreciate the attempt, but it was just so dumb to read and or to listen to. So thank you for correcting me on that. I will be sure to edit that. But yeah,
That should have been like Little Pip or Velvet that just attached, and not the experienced Wasteland survivors.
yeah, that just makes them like it just makes him look incompetent. And yeah, it makes more sense because Little Pip or Velvet could have been like arguing over it. And what would have been funny, at least in my opinion, is that they're arguing over it and like finally they like pull the pin, so then the train like it disconnects, and then as Calamity lands next to them, he's like, "Oh, we got to put the brakes on." And that's like you said, that one part, like, "Oh, where are the brakes at? The caboose." And then they just like look at each other like, "Oh shit." Like the part that we just disconnected. I think that would have worked a little bit better, not just Calamity doing it. You're right. I agree. I agree 100%.
Oh yeah, Calamity says Little Pip tells Calamity to save Little Pip, and they fly out of there. And somehow Pip, with her, her OP telekinesis, keeps a giant speeding train from flying off the tracks when it turns. Somehow.
Yeah, and I'm just surprised because when they get to that point, when they get into that ravine, right? And then again, we have that one moment of like reflection, like, oh my God, like Ditsy Do, you know, experienced it, like all these like sky wagons and this and that, because that's that she starts to like reflect on that because she sees them all like scattered around because I believe,
Doing the thing again.
huh?
You're doing the thing again where you're blending the chapters together. We're gonna have some kind of break.
Really? Oh, is that chapter 9?
Yeah, it crashes, and then it's like,
Oh,
and
my
then you
bad.
watch it, and then they fuck up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to. I guess we're done talking about this chapter already.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, if I'm gonna rate it, if I'm gonna rate chapter 8, um, it could have done a lot better in terms of like an argument with Velvet and Little Pip, possibly discussing like, you know, who to help and why to help them. And being the both of them being naive and all that, we could have seen like a more innocent conversation. And I think that would have been a moment where either a side character or just maybe even Calamity themselves, like telling the both of them of like, basically we were talking about earlier, it's like, I get it, you want to help, but you literally pick like the worst group to help, and that's just not how we would do things, because it's kind of like, I think they say that in the chapter or maybe the chapter beforehand or afterwards. I don't know. I know it comes up though, um, where Little Pip is like, so you're telling me you were getting all these like slave ponies like healthy just to sell them to their deaths. Like that should have been a moment there where it's just, yeah, like that should have been a moment there to like shut Velvet up, because I hate self-righteous characters. I think they're doing the right thing, but they're actually like hurting, more and more other individuals out there. So, I mean, if we were rating this out of a 10, I would say this is like a 6.5 out of 10, at least for me.
Straight 5, pure mid. Also, time for the incorrect anatomy count.
Okay.
There's only one. At one point, they say a unicorn pony waves his paws.
Oh my
That's horrific. I will. That's even worse than saying hands. You fucking furry.
god. Oh my god. I I need to get my book out of the garage and like start reading along, to see if they edited out these things, because I know for sure when I read it once, I was glancing over it. I know that there were moments where it's like, oh, I got knocked off my feet. I'm like, excuse me, you have what now? So I have to I will do that also too now, like going and like listening along. I'll read along as I listen to the audiobook to see if there's like any corrections on these books, because I hope, as they say, that these books were edited. They were quote unquote proofread. So let's see if that's
Sure
actually
for
true
the
or not.
sure for the last episode of this, you film yourself burning that book.
Oh god.
That goes
Uh,
like $200.
That goes, yeah, literally $275 right down the drain right there. Well, not down the drain, but up in smokes. Oh my god. All right. Well, chapter 9, and I know I already started on it, so I guess I'll start a little bit here and I'll give the conch to you. But yeah, they meet up with Watcher. Yay. He just magically appears every time a major event happens instead of, being there, but he's just there playing Monday morning quarterback. So that's always fun. And for those that don't understand that analogy, basically, he goes and always tells the characters, "Oh, I would have done it this way, or I would have done it that way." Or what I don't like either is that there's just these moments where it's like, instead of trying to blend it in the chapter later on or as like a natural conversation, Watcher just likes to like lore dump on these characters. So, really annoying. I can see a purpose of it, if done correctly, but I just don't like writing like that. I just don't. So that happens. They're in a ravine and they notice a lot of sky wagons, and again, little Pip is having that moment of like, oh my gosh, this is so terrible. I can only imagine like all these Pegasus like falling to the ground, from the sky after the mega spells went up, and how horrifying it was and sad and this and that, and just basically like being a Debbie Downer. And again, it's a bit justified, after of course she learns a little bit about Ditzy and how the things happened and all that kind of stuff. But then we get a moment here that leads into a little bit of horror. So they notice a smell. And if I missed anything, then please let me know, Afterglow. So I'm going to give you the conch here.
Wait, a smell? I have like 3 pages of notes and I don't know what you're talking about.
The smell. Remember the smell?
The smelly smell that smells smelly? No, I don't.
That fishy smell. That smelly smell. insert combat evolved flood music. When the ghouls make their appearance, they notice the smell first. I believe it was little Pip that makes a note of it.
Damn, you're skipping ahead.
Really? I thought they'd only talked for
Yeah,
like a
bro.
little bit.
Yeah, but before the ghouls, they find the wagon and there's like important shit in there.
Oh, well, I kind of like hinted at it, like Ditzy Doo's wagon, but go ahead if you want to talk about that first before we get to the smelly smell.
And the wagon. And this safe that takes little Pip like 2 seconds to open has been sitting there for 200 years and isn't open. Which, very convenient.
Mm-hmm.
And she finds, Sparkle Colorad, which is chili Nuka-Cola, Quantum, or Quartz, whichever one it is. So, Funny Fallout 3.
Funny Fallout 3.
And she finds there's also a footlocker. She can't get it open, so she pops some more menthols, which once again, thanks, Calamity. Well, literally makes her a drug addict, and he knows they're addicted. We've been over this.
Yep.
And then while she's opening that, Calamity gives a lore dump. But this chapter has by far the most lore dumps out of the entire thing so far.
Mm.
We learn about how in the war, the Pegasi said, fuck this shit, I'm out. And they flew to the clouds and covered everything up so they couldn't die.
Yep.
And then we get the Ministry, Footlocker is actually the Ministry of Peace. We really can't wait to blow our load with these ministries. And she finds a memory orb, but she doesn't use yet. I have a lot to say about memory orbs if they actually start to get me important.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about those two as well.
And then we get to whatever smell you're talking about.
Okay. I mean, those items probably weren't scavenged because, one, and I'm just kind of like, you can say, oh, I'm making excuses or not, but they're in a location in which I would say scavengers wouldn't go to, a ravine, because ravines are very hard to get out of unless you have like an entry point. As somebody who's like been hiking and stuff like that, like there's just moments where there's just like a flat fucking angle. You have to climb out of that. Another thing too I was gonna say was that the smelly smell. Those feral ghouls, like we don't know how long they've been down there. I really wish the timeline was very consistent among even the games of like when feral ghouls like start to, or not feral ghouls, excuse me, pardon me, when regular ghouls start to show the symptoms of going feral, because it just doesn't really happen. But that's when we notice the smelly smell. And um yeah, uh the feral ghouls make an appearance, and there are just so many of them that the only logical choice here is to run. So the funny Scooby Doo chase scene occurs, and um, little Pip almost dies because her sniper rifle gets snagged. I believe like on, I think it was like a window or something. So she almost gets like fucking eaten alive there. And then what else happens? They get chased for a little while. I forget. How do they get out? Do they just outrun them, or does like I forget.
One point, Calamity just says "fuck this" and starts blasting a hole through them so they can get out.
Mm-hmm.
Or they probably would have died if he didn't do that. So thanks for him. Only smart one.
Well, somewhat. I mean, the last chapter showed that he just decided to like yoink the caboose. So that's pretty much it in terms of the ravine scene. I believe. Am I mixing chapters up when they finally get to New Appaloosa once again, and Crane has a discussion with the little
We're
Pip?
not even near that part.
No? What else happens
That
then?
doesn't even happen. A lot happens in the chapter. For one, they
Shit,
wanted
you're
to
gonna have to
watch her
fucking
again.
you're gonna have to explain then, because I'm completely drained and I don't remember the after that part. So go ahead, take the conch.
He's got all this war dump you forgot.
Go ahead.
So Watcher shows up again. And then Pip's like, hey, fuck you. You sent me into that library knowing he was a raider then. And you're like, okay, and? You got what you needed, didn't you? So I don't know how we feel about that.
Not very good, honestly. She could have met
I'm
her.
surprised it took him this long to confront him.
Yeah, she could have met her end right then and there, and like he would have just been screwed.
He knew she had like no weapons too, so I don't know why he did that. And without a warning, he 100% knew.
Mm-hmm. That's a fair point. Like he could have just told her, "Hey, there's raiders there. Uh, maybe give her a weapon or something, or maybe even tell her like, oh, in this room there's like a weapon room. I'm sure you can find something there to help." But yeah, you're right. Like I completely understand her frustration once she starts to talk about what happened. Keep going.
Yeah. See, and then little Pip finally tells the group who Watcher is, and they don't really have much reaction to it. Calamity is just like suspicious of him. That's about it.
Mm,
I think Calamity would be a bit more concerned about this.
yeah.
But then we get to the big one. Pip finally asks who were the ministries. And we get bits and pieces here of the lore. Where Watcher explains how Celestia did a big funny at Little Horn, but he doesn't know the specifics, and that made put Luna in charge.
Mm-hmm.
So Little Horn will be very important. I will have like a lot of sneaking to do about that. It's like the
Ye
most contrived part of the story.
Yeah. Once again, it just sets up all these things for later on. You know, it's I would say it's like kind of like a failed attempt at a hook to try and like have the readers, you know, put a little bit more investment into the story. But I mean, yeah, keep going.
I don't know why you're doing your hook like 80,000 words in.
Yeah.
But yeah, what she explained, we don't know who he is yet. She, it explains that the main six were put in charge of the ministries. And it doesn't really explain what the ministries were or even gives them all their names. And then he runs out of time to talk to them. So I don't really know what the point of that scene was. Like, it only gave us very vague hints at what the lore is. I can see why he completely forgot it happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I forgot that that part even occurred. That's that's why I was skipping over to the more important part was when they finally get to New Appaloosa and little Pip gets in trouble. But I mean, am I missing anything prior to that?
You're completely forgetting about the rock farm, bud.
The rock farm. Oh
Yeah, with
yeah, you
Pinky
know what?
Bell.
You're right. That's where little Pip gets scolded. Not at New Appaloosa, but the rock farm. You're right. You're right. Holy crap! Completely forgot about the rock farm.
Which, of course, goes to one of the main six's birthplaces just by pure coincidence.
Yeah, and I don't even was Pinkie Pie's home even that close to Ponyville? I could have sworn it was a
Well, they're more near New Appaloosa than Ponyville.
mm. Okay, yeah, you know what? Yeah, that makes sense then. It just it's just one of those other moments of us like, why are we continuously shoehorning in things of the show into the story?
And then, so they meet Pinky Bell, and she's
Yeah.
like painted pink. It's not natural coat, which makes everyone spooked.
Yeah.
And she goes, and then, of course, naturally, she goes into a lore dump because it happens to be a Pinkie Pie museum. Yeah, so she talks about how, like, Pinky got her cutie mark and all that.
Mhm.
And she talked about the Ministry of Morale
Mhm.
and how they spied on ponies.
Yeah.
Important.
Why and then the biggest question is like, why does this little filly know all about this?
She's very well read, I guess.
Because I know this is supposed to be a knockoff of fudge. I forget was it Petra Petrobita? The Nuka Cola history? Like history. The Nuka Cola Museum of History. Grammar's awful right now. But I know it's supposed to be a knockoff of her. Because in Fallout 3, there is a character that is in charge of the quote unquote museum of Nuka Cola. And she does a whole little like interview type, you know, explanation about Nuka Cola and like the products. And again, also a little weird even in the game itself, like how she knows so much about it because you would think that that kind of information would get simply lost to time. But hey, it happens again in the game, so I can't really knock it off too much in the fanfic. So,
I can, because the Ministry of Morale's whole point was that you didn't know they were spying on everyone.
mm-hmm.
So how did this filly know things that 100% was not public knowledge? Even when everyone was alive.
Mm. Well, it even makes it more ridiculous than that, you know. It makes it makes this part like just more out of the way stupid because a filly knows the information, not some mare or stallion that's been doing their research for whatever reason, wanting to know more about the ministries, specifically the mystery of morale. But no, it's a filly.
Well, yeah, she's like, we would have gotten more lore, but unfortunately, Pip sees a party time mental piece that she shows off, and she immediately stops listening to, like, I need drug.
Yeah, I remember. I do remember that part of the actual chapter when she completely ignores and she gets obsessed over the recipe of the party time mid tats. I think they're like a stronger version of it, right? So she.
Wait,
Well, you're cutting out there, buddy.
if you've played Fallout, you know there's variants of mentats.
Yeah, yeah. And I know she has this moment where she goes and she tries to sneak it out, and then again, this little filly for whatever reason is like patrolling, the barn and stuff like that, and then we get a whole like sad story about it, like why she painted herself pink and why she has a little lump on her forehead because it's not that it's a defect or something, it's that she was once a unicorn, but a raider group came along and broke said horn. uh
No. It said that she cut her own horn off for whatever reason.
Oh, you're correct. Yeah, she cut her own horn off because of the depression, because she lost her parents as well as her older sister. And it's weird because it seemed like there was another individual that cared about their family, but they're only mentioned in the sister's goodbye note and then never again. So, there's that. And because of that said depression, she does cut off her own horn and she wants to go out on a bang. And that's when they open the barn door and they find a mega spell bomb.
What? You're crazy, but that doesn't happen yet.
Yeah, it happens a little bit afterwards. Remember when she's trying to make a deal
No,
with Pip?
not true. Didn't happen. Not yet, anyway.
Not yet. What am I
No,
missing?
the story. This chapter ends where Velvet's like, "Oh, Pinkie Pie wouldn't want to throw a party for you to be happy because you're really sad," and it just kind of this right.
Yes, emotional manipulation. Yes, emotional manipulation on a child that has a lot of trauma. That's what Velvet Remedy is known for.
And Pip, well, before Pip really wants to steal that recipe, but she's like, "Wait, I shouldn't steal from children. So at least that's something good, right?"
Yeah. Oh my god, I completely like blended two chapters. I'm tired. I'm sleepy.
And you
But
do it every single time. You blended 3 chapters this time.
yeah, now it's worse this time. Exhausted. But yeah, this chapter, was it really entirely necessary? Was it needed? Could it have been done better? I think so. We didn't need all this weird lore dumping, especially coming from like a filly. It would make a lot more sense if it was an adult, or maybe their parents were doing the research, so that's probably why they knew about it. But just for it to be there and just out of the blue, like she knew so much about all this stuff, I just don't like it. I don't like it. I think it's lazy. Um,
You know, Watcher could have been the one to give this information. I was already lord dumping about the ministries, but
True. And then there's like another thing that I think we can both agree on. It's funny how Watcher was mentioning the ministries and he just happens to disconnect, and all of a sudden they find themselves in front of the rock farm. So it's just one of those other moments of, just out of convenience, here's your lore. So
oh, disconnected.
yeah. So it's
Yeah, this was like I don't know why we had to stuff all this lore dumping into one chapter. Honestly,
mhm. Yeah.
K-Cat really likes blowing his load a little early. It's a little premature pre-dump.
Just a little bit, yeah. Just a little bit. Just a tad bit. But yeah, I mean that's just those are some of the flaws that I see there. So once again, I mean if you're doing your own story, doesn't have to be FOE, could be just a story that has, lore and also just rules of, the world, some world building and stuff like that. You know, try and explain it at a more natural pace. Just how in life you're not going to be given calculus at the fourth or fifth grade. Like you have to build up to it, or any other subject. You got to build up to it. You're not going to be given, a mastery level class right away, and even if it's like these, it just doesn't make sense for the normal laymen that are reading these stories. You might feel smart, you might feel all this, but trust me, when we read these stories and we're thinking about it, it makes you look like an idiot. It makes you look like you wanted to rush something so you can like get the idea out there first before, anyone else. And if anything, again, it just makes you look incompetent, and people don't really care much for that. I think a well flushed out story that took its time and built up to something will always outperform a story that wants to rush and become something, you know, they want to be first, they want to do this, they want to do that. So that's just my take on the overall chapters 8 and 9, even though I seemed a little under the weather. But I think also for chapter 9, if I'm going to give it out of 10, I would say I would also probably rate it a bit lower this time and probably give it like a 4.5 to a 5 out of 10. Just don't like the pacing and I don't like the lore dumping out of nowhere.
I can still go even lower. I'm giving it a 3.5.
Wow. Why is that? That's a lot low.
I
That's really
just
low.
you not only did they lore dumped in the most vague way possible. So why bother at all? If you're gonna lore dump, at least go all the way and do it actual lore instead of bits and pieces.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, if it's done in such a way where it's just bits and pieces, it could work. It could work. But I just hate it how it's done that way by a character that obviously knows a lot more than what they're saying, and it comes off as annoying. It like again, it could work, but you have to practice and have the correct formula and pacing in order for that to work. Or you have to trick the reader, just how you would trick the character into like, they only know about this much, but then have the reader and also have the character like thinking that, wait, why does it seem like this, individual that is giving me the story, giving me the lore of the land, why does it feel like they're holding out on something? Build up that suspicion. Like have again, it goes all the way back to just having build up, if that makes any sense.
I think the bits and pieces could have worked if you spread it out across multiple chapters, not all at once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're only on chapter
You
8 and
know,
9. There's like 40 plus
we have
chapters.
we have like a couple more hundred of thousand words to go. You had time, but you probably didn't know that because you didn't make an outline.
Yeah. Story was getting really popular at the time, and again, they wanted to be first and they wanted to be popular, so they went ahead and did it. I mean, it's human nature. You want to be first, you want to be popular, you want to have clout and this and that. And I will always say this as we're wrapping up every video, like I appreciate what you did for the fandom because you let it, you gave this subsection its identity and something to, a foundation to bounce off of. But even I will say that there are better stories out there that take place in the FOE universe,
Like Project Horizons.
and it is not for everybody.
It's only for people with taste.
Like Project oh no, not Project. Fallout Equestria, the Chrysalis is pretty good, but then I'm starting to get further along on it, and my personal opinion, it's starting to get a little bit dry. It's falling into some of these tropes, and I don't like it. And I hope the author, if they're still writing it, I don't know, because I used to listen to it on Straight to the Point Studio, but we all know what happened to him. So, um, yeah, I might have to just read it on my own instead of like listening to a narrator read a pretty good story. So sad times ahead.
Can't even read his own story, bro.
Nah, man, I was at that point where I was listening to stuff because I just wanted to listen to something before I would go to sleep and relax. I would listen to a story.
Yes, my perfect bedtime story, The Horrors of War.
I mean, it's not just like that, but I like to listen to lore or just long, you know, longer videos because I slowly go to bed. I as a side note, I just don't like to sleep in silence. I mean, I'll sleep in silence when I'm dead, so I don't need that right now.
Well, what a
Any
depressing ending this one took.
dude, I am not feeling good, but I owe it to you and I owe it to the audience to continue to work. So, any closing thoughts? Anything else you would like to mention before we get the hell out of here?
You know, I said it before, and I'll say it about like 30 more times. God, I hate Velvet Remedy.
Yeah. Still one of the most unpopular characters in my book as well. And I've read quite a few stories both in the fandom and outside the fandom, and I just don't like characters like that. And I think we're going to get to a certain point where we might just compile all of our ideas and just explain why Velvet Remedy's character is just so awful.
I don't have to be its own separate video to be that long.
Yeah, I mean, she's cute. I like her design, it's not too bad. I like the colors, I like the fact that she helps other ponies. Like we could have had a medic or a healer. We could have. I mean, honestly, medics and healers are always normally my favorite characters when it comes to, fiction or nonfiction stories. But she's just done in such a way where it's just like, oh my God, I hope you poke yourself with your own syringe.
I don't like her design because
Oh my God. Yeah, that's something that's going to be edited out so we don't get fucking another strike because someone's being hot.
if only if only you put it on fucking PonyTube, you could leave it in.
We will.
Like I said, to do from the beginning.
We will. No,
Yeah, but now you don't even have the raw audio anymore, do you?
no, we're gonna go from here on out. We're gonna put our stuff on PonyTube. I'm not gonna I will say this though, I'm not gonna go like over the top on it because if we ever decide to go to a convention that isn't Marefair, like they don't like spicy stuff. So just within reason. But that's pretty much
I
it.
will I will go I will go to that con, sit down at the chair, adjust the microphone, and walk away.
Oh my God. And that's how you don't get on the panel if we ever have that opportunity again.
You don't know. Well, you have to take the risk.
No.
Who else are you gonna have on that panel? Who else is active here?
True. This place needs to need a revive, but hey, everyone can busy right now. I'm busy, I'm dying. So there you go. I mean, everyone has lives. Not everything is always gonna be,
Only is my life.
hey man, I need money to support myself and other things that are going on in my life. Like I've already talked to you about some stuff, but I don't want to get into it here. But yeah, things could be better. That's all I'm gonna say. So thank you all for joining us on another episode. Once again, I would like to apologize for such a delay. Again, YouTube and its infinite wisdom decided that the links that we provided on one of the ITT videos was just not safe for work, even though it was a, Twitter, Tumblr link. So it is what it is. But we hope to all see you guys very soon. We're going to start doing these videos a little bit more regularly. because I have nothing else to do besides work and work out. So, you know, this space is going to take up my social life. Other than that, though, I'd like to thank all of you guys for sticking with us. It's been a journey. It's been 2 years now with this channel, and hopefully go for a third. Thank you all for listening, and once again, you know, the comments are there. Love to interact with you guys. And thank you, Afterglow, for having the time to sit down and talk about Fallout Equestria with me.
I love them.
I love them too, because they love me back. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bears.